Dickerson.
What's up, everybody? I'm Matt Leinart, 2004 Heisman Trophy winner.
Hey, I'm Zane Gonzalez.
Hi, I'm Matt Barry from ESPN. You're getting ready to watch one of the best college football podcasts ever. It's the Harris Highlight Show.
You're watching the Harris Highlight Show.
And you're watching the Harris Highlight Show.
And you're listening to the Harris Highlight Show. Enjoy it.
Na 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 na.
Monrovia, California. It does that every week. This is the Harris Highlight Show. Joining me this week is our college football analyst and expert, Lyle Goldstein, our executive producer, Brady Klein, our Ontario Reign play-by-play commentator, Josh Schaefer, will be joining us at some point throughout the show. I'm your host for the evening, Blake Harris. Gentlemen, how are we doing this week? It's Thursday night. It's a little later than normal. It's 9 p.m. for Brady. He's hanging in there. It's almost his bedtime, but how are we doing out there?
Doing well. No complaints. It feels like 9 o'clock here because it's been dark for about 4 hours, but otherwise, just your typical Thursday.
Yeah, as we mentioned, it's 9 p.m. for Brady, which by his standards is getting pretty late. So we told him, Lyle's idea, he might have to take a power nap throughout the show. That way he can power through the pick'ems at the end. So Brady, by all means, get your beauty sleep, take as long as you need, again, while we wait for Josh. But guys, as this guy says right here, Brady, I suffer with you. So Brady, someone's in this with you. They're going to battle it out and see how long it takes. But pretty much for the most part, guys, we're going to be talking about the latest batch of college football playoff rankings. Not a whole lot to talk about because the rankings stayed essentially almost identical to what they were last week. So nothing new, a few things that we might want to add, provide our thoughts on. We're going to be talking about the latest coaching rumors. There have been some coaches that have gotten fired. There have been some coaches that have signed extensions and some coaches that have been linked to some big-time Power 5 schools. So we'll be talking about the latest coaching news. We'll be providing our latest Heisman rankings where we have the top 3, the top 5, things like that. And we'll be answering your guys' questions throughout the show. So if you guys have any college football related questions, any questions about anything in general, let us know in the comments down below. Lyle, Thomas says, Lyle, I suffer through the Pacific Northwest darkness with you. So we got someone on Brady's end. We got someone on Lyle's end. Maybe we'll get someone on my end at some point throughout the show. So, guys, I'm going to share just the latest college football playoff rankings. Again, we'll just quickly provide our initial thoughts on the latest batch of rankings. So here it is. Again, for the most part, nothing has really changed for the most part. They're essentially the same rankings as we saw last week. I mentioned there was something that I did want to discuss about this batch of rankings that I do want to provide my 2 cents on. Lyle, I'll throw it to you just to start it off. If there's anything that stood out to you, anything you wanted to talk about, or if again this week there was just nothing really notable that you really had any opinion on.
I guess there's just not that much to break down because for the third week in a row, the rankings are basically the same. The only thing that you could really dive into is Michigan and Michigan State at 6 and 7. And I know some people have their gripes about that. Personally, I don't love it. And I've talked about how I just want to get rid of this format anyway and get the automatic bids in here, as fast as humanly possible. But at the same time, the Big Ten's all going to play itself out. So people can be mad about it for a week or two, but in the end, it'll all shake out the way it's supposed to.
Brady, let's break your moment of silence right here. What are your because like I said, I'll share mine, and once I'm done sharing mine, unless you guys have something you want to chime in, we could probably move on from the rankings. But is there anything that just stands out from this, or just what we've seen in the first? I think this is the third week we've had them so far. Just kind of anything that you've noticed from what the committee's done these first 3 weeks,
Outside of the 6 and 7 debacle, which we've covered many times, and the committee's come out and said their reasoning, and I know you're going to dive into that here in a minute, but nothing really out of norm. I think I kind of think Cincinnati's sitting in a good spot at 5 with how we can see 3 and 4 play out, especially with the Michigan-Ohio State game coming here in a few weeks. So I kind of like where Cincinnati's sitting. I'm not too upset with them not being in the top 4. The one thing I do want to say is finally UTSA is into the rankings. So up at 22 with the Roadrunners. So good for them.
I'm just looking forward to Mississippi State having 5 or 6 losses, and they're somehow still ranked because they have good wins. But like what you said, I mean, Cincinnati, whether they're ranked at 3, 4, 5, 6, it doesn't necessarily matter at this point because it's all pretty much going to play itself out. Georgia's going to play Alabama. Oregon still has to play Utah. Likely Utah again in the Pac-12 title game. Ohio State still has some tough games on their resume. So, yeah, it's going to play itself out. But yeah, the thing that I wanted to talk about, and I think, Thomas right here in the comments, he mentioned it. I got no problem with the whole Michigan State thing at 6 and 7 because, again, at this point, these rankings don't matter because it's going to play itself out because these teams are going to be playing each other. A lot's going to happen in front of them. But the fact that Gary Barta essentially came out and said, although Michigan State beat Michigan, again, I don't have the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of Michigan has every metric that we look for over Michigan State, which doesn't really make sense considering that you have Oregon at 3 over Ohio State at 4, and Oregon, they lost to a Stanford team that's 3 and 7. Ohio State's been playing much better football as of late, but I don't know what metrics the playoff committee is looking at, but it's tough to imagine that Oregon beats Ohio State and all these metrics. So you got Oregon over Ohio State because you say you value head-to-head, but then again, you come and you have Michigan over Michigan State, even though Michigan State has the really impressive head-to-head wins. So, like I said, for the most part, it's going to play itself out. So whether one team's 6 or one team's 7, it doesn't necessarily matter at this point. But again, we've talked about this in weeks past. If the committee would just come out and say, this is what we value most. So, if Gary Barta was talking about these metrics that they look at where Michigan, they just have the edge over Michigan State and all these metrics, I got no problem with that. But just come out and say, as the playoff committee, this is what we value the most. Head-to-head's important, but we look at this, we look at these metrics a little more. So any just final thoughts on, that whole thing about having a team like Michigan above Michigan State, say that they value this more than potentially a head-to-head win? Because as we've seen, if Ohio State was above Oregon, I'd be on board with it because that would make total sense because then the head-to-head doesn't matter. But as we can see, it kind of clearly does matter just a little bit.
We don't know what they think, and that's why there's not that much more to add. And we dove into this for a couple weeks straight now. Is we don't know what they value. We don't know what holds the most weight in their eyes. They're just not clear about it, honestly. And I feel like it's been worse since Gary Barta's tenure as the head of the committee. What was the name of the last guy? It was the Oregon AD? It was something long? Does anybody remember? I feel like this might be up Brady's alley.
Yeah, it was the Oregon AD, but I don't have the name on the top of my head, so I'm sure Brady will get it, or maybe someone in the comments will come through in the clutch real quickly.
Yeah, my point being, I feel like those guys not only were better media trained, but I feel like there wasn't as much chaos around these rankings. The way that there has been, or I shouldn't say chaos, as much criticism around the rankings as there's been the last couple of years, just because it feels like there's not really any transparency when these rankings come out, as evident from this one right here on the screen. You got 3 versus 4, Ohio State. Ohio State's behind Oregon, and then you've got 6 and 7 with Michigan State behind Michigan.
The old chairman was Rob Mullins.
Rob Mullins. Okay, but there was somebody before that too. I swear his last name was, I'll look it up.
Yeah, no, Lyle hit it spot on. It's just, we don't know. And the thing that's been interesting is, as Lyle mentioned, before it was Barta, they'd always provide, very insightful information in regards to the whole process and everything. I don't know how often you guys watch, the playoff rankings every week. I usually tend to catch them every week, and always they have Reese Davis interviewing Gary Barta, and Reese Davis always seems like he wants to tear him a new one. Reese Davis, just you can tell, seems frustrated, annoyed with the entire process because, again, the answers that Gary Barta gives on a week-to-week basis, I forget what he said about Cincinnati a couple weeks ago, but it was something along the lines of, yeah, they're undefeated. They got the win against Notre Dame, but, they're just not a good team. And Reese Davis just wants to go like, you're a moron. So, again, the playoff committee, eventually, I hope they'll get it right with the Final Four. Like I said, everything's going to probably work itself out in the long run. But just overall, for the most part, it's just disappointing because it just seems like every week there is a gripe. There's likely, the same 23 to 24 teams every week, but there's something that, we seem to complain about, something that we really, just can't really get behind. So It is what it is. Hopefully by the end, we'll get things right. Guys, before we move on, out of these 1 through 25, is there just any team on here that stands out, whether you think they're too high or too low, or just a team that kind of popped out when you saw where they were in the top 25?
Like Brady said, I think it's cool to see UTSA in there. I mean, I know they're a small school, but they're undefeated, so it's nice to see them get some respect. Oh, also, I just looked it up. Jeff Long was the first chairman. I knew I wasn't crazy that somebody's last name was Long. He was the Arkansas AD, I believe, and then, like Brady said, Mullen was actor. But yeah, I think UTSA is. You could argue they could be a little bit higher, I guess, just because they're undefeated. But yeah, that would be mine.
Yeah, that's it. I hit on that earlier about them. That's about it.
Yeah, pretty much same thing. San Diego State at 19 seems kind of low key how good they've been this season. Oklahoma, they're at 13. They didn't fall too much in the rankings. Baylor, they're at number 11. It's still weird seeing Notre Dame, Oklahoma State, Wake Forest round out the top 10 because theoretically at this point in the season, if you're ranked number 8 through 10, you still kind of have a chance at the college football playoff. But it seems like for the most part, the teams that are ranked in the top 7 are the ones that have a legitimate chance. I think there has to be absolute chaos for Notre Dame, Oklahoma State, Wake Forest, which, again, Oklahoma State, Wake Forest, they're ranked number 1 in their conference, and it just seems like they get, no respect whatsoever. So, yeah,
Well,
what was it, Lyle?
That's what I was going to ask is how many teams do we really feel like still have a chance? Because hypothetically, if Ohio State just cleans up the Big Ten and they beat Michigan and then they beat Michigan State, do Notre Dame, Oklahoma State, or Wake Forest have a chance? I mean, maybe if Oregon loses, maybe. I mean, I'd say about 9 teams have a chance, maybe 10 if you want to include Wake Forest, but I don't think they have enough good wins.
I think 7, the top 7 have like a legitimate chance, like they control their own destiny. I think if you're going to see potentially like Notre Dame, Oklahoma State, Wake Forest, maybe Baylor, you're going to have Cincinnati's going to have to lose, which is going to drop them out completely. You're going to have Ohio State, probably, I guess Ohio State might be in there. So they'll probably knock off Michigan. They'll knock Michigan out. I think Michigan State, they're probably going to have Ohio State like lose to Michigan, then maybe like lose in the Big Ten title game. But I don't think Michigan State has a chance. Well, I guess if Michigan State wins this weekend against Ohio State, then they technically could still have a chance. If Bama loses to Georgia, obviously they're out. So I'd say 7, I think, like have a realistic chance. But I think based on all the hypothetical situations, I definitely think Notre Dame and either a combo of Oklahoma State, Baylor have an outside chance. They just need a lot to go their way. Wake Forest, if they were undefeated, I think they'd still, be a realistic team. But with them having that one loss, even if they win the ACC, it's tough to see them. So, like I said, I'll go with the top 7 and then a combo of either Notre Dame and whoever wins the Big 12, assuming there's, a bunch of chaos. That would be my guess as of right now.
If there's something we know you love, Blake, it's the combos.
Well, I love combos, but what I do love more than combos are hypotheticals.
That's true.
Remember we used to have a segment when I just would rattle off hypothetical scenarios for whatever the reason was.
I will say on that note, if chaos ensues and somehow they put a 1-loss Notre Dame team in over Cincinnati, I'm a Notre Dame fan, but I'll be the first person to put my hand up and say that's atrocious. If Notre Dame's 1 loss is to an undefeated Cincinnati team and they still leave Cincinnati out.
Right. And some people are talking about in the comments saying Notre Dame, they might jump Cincinnati with that. That'd be an interesting situation, if those are the 2 teams battling for the final spot. And then the committee just says, you know what, who cares that this team beat this team head to head? We're going to go with who we think is overall better. So those are the college football playoff rankings. Guys, let's talk about some of the latest coaching news. We just got a text from Josh saying he's going to be joining momentarily so he can hop on, provide some thoughts. There's been a lot. There's been a lot of coaching news over the last week of the college football season. Like I said, some coaches have gotten fired. Some coaches rumored to be going to some other places. So let's start with the first one, and it's the LSU head coaching job. So as we all know, unfortunately, I don't think we've had a chance to talk about that. Unfortunately, Brady, Coach O, your favorites, the greatest impersonation Brady does. He's not going to be back at LSU next season. And there's been some rumors as to who's going to fill the void there. What I've seen in the last week, one rumor was Jimbo Fisher, which I thought was funny because he then came, and I think he said this, I don't know if it was in his press conference or pregame whatever, or leading up to this weekend's game, or this was in a practice the last few days, but he said, we may recruit the number 1 class, and I'd be the dumbest person alive to recruit all these players to A&M so I can go play against them. So Jimbo Fisher's pretty much taken his name out of the hat. One name that I saw was Lincoln Riley, who there was some report that he would get something along the lines of like a 10-year, $90 million,
8-year, $98 million.
Eight. So I think I forget what Saban's is, but if it's 8 for 90, that would pretty much have him either right under Saban or right above Saban for the highest annual coach. So again, guys, a lot still has to go down, but what would your thoughts be of Lincoln Riley? We've all talked about him. I think Lyle, do you still want him to come to the Seahawks? I know you're kind of pushing that for a couple years ago. Are you still on board with that?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
So Lyle still wants Lincoln Riley to go to the Seahawks. It would make sense that Lincoln Riley would leave college football to go to an NFL team, whether it's a head coach or an offensive coordinator position. But guys, what are your thoughts on Lincoln Riley potentially being rumored to go to LSU, replace Coach O at the end of the year?
I guess it's possible. It's just how much better of a job is LSU compared to Oklahoma? I know the SEC is the SEC, but it's kind of the same thing I thought about with Jimbo Fisher. When I saw Jimbo Fisher was potentially in the running for this job, the first thing I thought to myself is, well, Texas A&M and LSU, those are equal tier jobs. I don't think one school is better than the other. Neither of those schools is Bama, but each of those schools is right in the next tier. And Jimbo Fisher's already got a job, and like Blake said, he's racking in an unbelievable recruiting class. So it seems a little weird that he would leave A&M for LSU, and it sounds like he's going to stay put. For Lincoln Riley, I think the same thing, especially if Oklahoma is about to move to the SEC. I feel like those are equal level jobs. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he sees more daylight in Baton Rouge than he does in Norman, but I feel like those are about equal level jobs. So I would be a little surprised to see Lincoln Riley leave Oklahoma for LSU. I feel like if he leaves Oklahoma, it's probably going to be for the NFL.
What I've seen and looking at it, what I saw today was it's 8 years for $96 million. Oklahoma has the ability to match that, but not sure if they will.
Right.
Because that's a big commitment, and already, I mean, they already put a lot of money behind Lincoln Riley. So for Lincoln Riley, it basically comes down to, does he want the money or does he want to stay at Oklahoma? That's all it is. Because he's getting the money from Oklahoma anyways. It's just going to be a little more from LSU.
And like what Lyle mentioned, I mean, Oklahoma's moving to the SEC in 2 years? Was it 2024? So 2 more seasons. So he's eventually going to be in the SEC. So it's a matter of, again, money talks. So maybe, you take that 8-year, $96 million, whatever Brady said, and maybe Oklahoma's only willing to do 8 years for like $60 million. Again, I don't know how these coaching contracts work, but money might talk. I know coaches like having new challenges. They like trying new places. Maybe he's worn out by Oklahoma. So it'll be interesting to see. As we had our buddy, our Ontario Reign play-by-play commentator, Josh Schaefer. Josh, we were just talking about the latest coaching news. We were talking about the rumors that Jimbo's in the running potentially for the LSU job, but he essentially turned that down. But we were just wrapping up that Lincoln Riley is rumored. Brady had it. It was about like an 8-year, $95 million projection contract that he might be offered.
Dude, I've said it like 6 times, 896.
Hey, it's hard to remember.
94, 97, 92, 95. You just haven't said 90.
So before we move on to the next coaching rumor, what are your thoughts on Lincoln Riley potentially leaving Oklahoma to go to LSU for probably the second biggest payday in college football among coaches?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I think Lincoln's a good coach, but I'd kind of be here for it. First of all, it is straight up comedy that Oklahoma and Texas are like, we're going to join the SEC, only for Texas to be horrible and for Oklahoma's head coach to then leave for another program in the SEC. So I do think that's comical. At the same time, I'm kind of here for it. I think it would be interesting. I want to see what we can get at LSU because let's be honest, the LSU team we saw a few years ago was not only one of the best LSU teams ever, but it was also one of the best college football teams ever. I would like to see what Lincoln Riley can do offensively after that LSU team we saw a couple of years ago. So I think that could be really interesting. I think he could implement something different over there. Obviously, this is all speculation, and you don't want to speculate too much, but I think that's super interesting. And I'd kind of be interested to see what he can do.
Yeah, it would be interesting. That would definitely be the moves. I know some people are talking. Short Round even says I'd put LSU ahead of Oklahoma, especially with the jump to the SEC. But yeah, I mean, Josh brought up Texas. If Texas is doing this in the Big 12 this year, they're in for a rude awakening when they join the SEC.
I've got one more idea to throw into the ringer before we move on about LSU. Because I've given this some thought over the last few days since the coaching news has kind of picked up. They've never been too keen on leaving in the past, but because of their kind of downfall this year, do we think for the first time there's any chance either Tony Elliott or Brett Venables would consider a head coaching job if it was LSU?
Venables,
I kind of do.
Venables,
Yeah,
I
say
think.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like he never would have left in the past because Clemson was so good and they paid him like a head coach. But if this is the way they're trending, maybe he finally wants out. I don't know that. It's just a thought I've had.
Right.
My guess is you look at what's happened in the past for a guy like Venables, who I've always thought to, and I'm guessing it's pretty common. I've always thought to be the top candidate for any open position in college football.
Right.
At any level. What I think has happened in years past is he's going to get hey, we'll pay you the same amount to be the head coach at Kansas. No. He's like, no, right. I'm good. I'll stay with Clemson. I'd rather run what I got here at Clemson, stick with it, or take over a mediocre team for more money. This is the best of both worlds. Hey, here's a team that 2 years ago won the national championship, has always a top recruiting class, is in a great place, has great history, and can pay you a buttload of money. I'd jump all over that if I were Venables. If they called my name, or if they called his name, in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I think those are two good names that Lyle mentioned for sure. So who knows? We'll see. LSU, it's going to be one of the better coaching carousels to follow. But another name, this one's going to be brief because this was a rumor that I saw today. I don't know if you guys heard about this. Did you guys hear that apparently if the Miami Hurricanes give Lane Kiffin a call, he's very interested in picking up the phone and taking that job?
I did see that.
I don't know how much truth there is to that rumor, but guys, because I mean, Ole Miss is a great spot to be at for him right now. But if Lane Kiffin were to take his talents down to Miami, what are your thoughts on that?
That would be interesting.
He's got loyalty issues these days. He signed that 10-year contract or whatever at FAU, which everybody knew he wasn't going to stay at for the entire length of the deal. But then he goes to Ole Miss. All of a sudden, he's ready to jump ship at Ole Miss to go to Miami. I mean, he's moving around quick if he really takes that job.
That'd be something. I mean, I don't know what it would take, but if he's interested, maybe he'll go there. All right, guys, the next one I want to talk about, this one I found was to be very shocking. That's Michigan State head coach Mel Tucker signing a 10-year contract for $95 million. I believe it makes it now the second highest paid coach in all of college football, right behind Nick Saban. This is, I was shocked by it. I mean, Mel Tucker's a guy where this is his second year at Michigan State. They were pretty bad last year. They're having an impressive year this season. And you give a guy the second biggest contract ever by a college football coach. I know Josh had his thoughts on it in the group chat earlier, so I'll throw it to him to take us off on this because I was shocked when I heard this contract that he was getting.
Are you kidding me? Like, this is a joke, right? It has to be a joke. I don't care what his resume was like before he was a head coach. He was a solid coach elsewhere. He was a good coordinator. But as a head coach, are you serious? He spent 1 year at Colorado and was 5-7. And after that, he got the Michigan State job after D'Antonio left. And what has he done at Michigan State? He's had one good season where they beat Michigan. Good for them. They are now 9-1. Good for them. They were 2-5 last year. People talked about him being a bad hire. And then he has one good year. Fine. Good for him. 10 years? Are you kidding me? I again, like you guys know that I wasn't a huge anti-Clay Helton guy. The time had come. The time had either come after this season or before this season. USC totally botched it with what they did this year. Bottom line, extending Helton and then extending Helton again after like 1 or 2 good years. Okay, it was probably too many years in the extension, but this is insane. Like, I genuinely think this is insane. Good for him. It's not going to work. How is this going to work? He hasn't even completed one full season yet. Last year they played 7 games and they were 2-5. He hasn't even completed a full season at your school as your head coach yet, and you're extending him 10 years? Absolute insanity from Michigan State. I think it is a horrible move. Good for him. Good for them but look, I just don't see him being there 10 years. They want to give him that 10-year, whatever $1 million extension. Great. I cannot believe they extended him this much after what they've seen so far. They're having a good year. Good for them. Is this coach in this season right now worth, what'd you say, $95 million for 10 years?
95 mil for 10 years.
Absolutely not. I don't care who it is. Unless it's Nick Saban, I'm not paying a coach that after one season.
The one thing I'll add, because I know some people are talking about it's for the potential he has. He's making sure he doesn't leave for LSU and whatnot. There's again a bunch of people talking about, overall he's a good coach. I mean, he's turned it around in Michigan State, but like Josh said, it's a 1-year sample size. He was not great at Colorado, not great last season, and this guy could turn out to be an amazing coach that brings a national championship to Michigan State. But to make him the second highest paid college football coach when his track record is essentially they're really good this year and exceeding expectations, I'd have no problem if it was, a 5-year, $40 million extension. By all means, go for it. But again, to give a guy a 10-year deal, $95 million, making more money than a lot of proven coaches in college football, I think it's a risk. Like, props to him for securing the bag. Props to Michigan State for truly believing in him that much. But I mean, it's not every day. When you saw the Jimbo Fisher deal with Texas A&M, I think we all can agree. We thought, what the hell is Texas A&M doing? How are they giving him, a 10-year deal for, I think it was for $100 million straight up. I can't remember exactly what it was. And this was after Jimbo Fisher won a national championship at Florida State, going to an SEC team that's, was really good in the early 2010s with Johnny Manziel. And I personally was thinking, what the hell are they doing? And this was for a guy that's won a national championship, not a guy that has 21, 22 career games under his belts at Michigan State. So those are my 2 cents.
He's already on a 6-year contract already. So it's not like they had him for 6 years. They could have simply given him more money, but to then extend him 6 years and do the $90+ million contract, I just think is absolutely crazy.
I think they felt like they had to do it from keeping him from leaving. And yes, they overpaid for him, but I think they felt like since his name was starting to circle around some of these SEC jobs, mixed with the season that they've had this year, they kind of felt like, well, we can't lose this guy. We can't lose the head coach that's bringing us back up from from under the ground or whatever. Right. I think they felt like they had to do this to keep him. Otherwise they were going to lose him. Now, again, they did overpay to have to keep him. And there's probably outs in this contract where if they want to fire him at some point and it doesn't work out, they're not going to have to eat all the money. But I think this was just protocol to make sure he stays in East Lansing. Yeah,
pretty much. Again, I think that's what, which if that's the case, that's fine. Like, I got no problem with that. But again, like, I don't have it exactly in front of me. I don't know if Jimbo's making technically a little more, but second, third highest paid coach. That's nuts.
They're state schools. We can look it up.
That's remarkable. So who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Two quick ones I want to move on before we move on to the next segment. Washington, I believe, officially fired Jimmy Lake, not because he was mad at a player, but I think just because Washington is just falling apart. They're collapsing. So, guys, just if you're Washington, what do you do? I mean, Chris Peterson, retired because he just, didn't want to be a coach anymore. It was just too much for him. But what do they do? I mean, because Washington has just been on the downfall the last couple of years.
He is still around the program. Remember that. So Chris Peterson.
Yeah, he's like, what's his technical term?
He's like in the athletic department.
Director. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's technically still there, but
I think your first point of contact is to go straight to Peterson and be like, do you want it back? Like,
yeah,
you saw what he did. He was a good coach at UW. He was there for a long time, knows the system, knows the program, has been out of that coaching job for 6 months, a year. Was he around last year?
It was Lake last year.
Yeah.
What was that?
Didn't coach.
It was Jimmy Lake last year too.
It was Lake last year. Okay, so he's been out of it for a year and a half. He's still around the program. Some of the guys on the team are his recruits. He's basically just retaking over the team. I think Peterson, if at the end of this year they don't talk to him, that's crazy. He can say no, but reach out, talk to him.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll talk to him. I guess my guess would just be that he's okay stepping away from coaching. I could be wrong, but that's just my guess if he stepped away in the first place. The two names they keep throwing around on the radio here these days are Dave Aranda from Baylor and then Justin Wilcox. I mean, Aranda's kind of turned Baylor. I mean, Aranda's had some success at Baylor, so it would probably be a decent hire. And Washington is probably a better job than Baylor, although I guess that's up for debate.
It should be a better job than Baylor.
Right. But maybe not as we currently speak. Yeah, Justin Wilcox is the other one. And he certainly had some traction. Maybe that one happens. The other one I kind of thought about, similar to how I threw the Tony Elliott, Brent Venables names into the hat for the LSU job. This could be a total long shot, but do we think Bill O'Brien would even consider coming west? Because I'm guessing he doesn't want to be an OC forever. I'm guessing he wants another head coaching job. And he actually was a pretty good college head coach. So I don't know if he'd go out west, but I do wonder if he'd think about any of these head coaching vacancies.
He probably will, and then some amazing coach that got fired will replace him as Bama's offensive coordinator.
Well, true.
Coach Oda be Bama's offensive coordinator.
Exactly.
Roll Tide what? Go Tide.
You're damn right.
Yeah.
I will say this real quick. Go ahead, Brady.
I was going to say, I think at this point right now, the hottest coach that you could go after is Lance Leopold. I mean, you beat Texas and you're Kansas, you got to go after him. But actually, I will say this quick and let you go into this, Josh, is someone I just thought of, out of left field. He's been out of it for a while, but what about Bob Stoops? Still around the game, still on TV, but he's so tied into Oklahoma, I don't think he'd make a split to go anywhere else.
He'd be great, but I think he's kind of in the same boat as Chris Peterson, where I'm guessing people have made calls to him over the years, and he's probably okay staying at the analyst desk.
Urban when he gets fired from the Jaguars.
No, he's not going to get fired. He's going to quit. He's going to try to get right in front of him so that way he leaves with dignity because he quit. He wasn't fired.
Josh, what were you going to say a minute ago, though?
I don't get the Justin Wilcox hype. Never have. I don't understand it. I don't understand how he got the Cal job. I don't understand how he's linked to new jobs all the time. Somebody explain it to me. Genuinely, don't get it.
I guess it's the idea that he's young and people, I guess, like his offense that he brings. I suppose that's just what I hear. Actually, somebody threw one more name in the comments, and this is one more name I've heard kind of thrown around on the radio, and I think it's more hope than anything. But people have thrown around Matt Campbell, and again, Washington on paper is probably overall a better job than Iowa State, even though Iowa State might be a better program right now. But Matt Campbell's on such a long contract there. I don't know if he really wants to leave or not. So, yeah, those are the – what's that?
I was going to say, Blake, pull up Thomas Boyles. That's a good thought as well.
Kellen Moore, although he might want an NFL head coaching job one day.
Yeah.
Because he's already an OC there. But, yeah, that's true. So there's a handful of names that have been thrown out for UW. And they should get a decent coach. I mean, the thing about Washington is it's probably the third best job on the West Coast behind USC and Oregon. It's not like they should kind of get the runt of the litter or anything like that. Like, they should be able to pull somebody away. It's just, do they make a quality hire?
They were in the playoff a couple years ago.
I know.
If you're a vacant head coach, or if, say, Washington and LSU called you as a head coach to be their head coach right now, giving you the same contract for both, which would you take?
Of course you take LSU. I mean,
LSU and Washington.
LSU.
Washington. Yeah.
Who knows? Guys, one final name.
Blake.
Yeah, you like those.
Yeah, I do. One final name before we move on, guys. We haven't even touched on. What about Georgia Southern making the splash of the season and reeling in a Clay Helton? Anything
Great
about
hire.
that? So I'm
great
confused. So he's not the coach now, right? This is for next year, or is he currently coaching Georgia Southern?
I don't think
I never understood the whole thing, because they were doing this whole thing like his jet landed, they rolled out the red carpet. So do they not have a coach and he's coming in next season? Is he there now?
Also, I didn't even see a rumor. I just saw, hey, Georgia Southern has hired Clay Helton. I was like, what?
Well, am I right? Is he on the sideline right now? Is he currently coaching, or because
he's probably recruiting.
Yeah, he's in coaching, but he's already recruiting for the team. So I assume that they just have, the OC or DC that just stepped up and they're just named their coach. And because I thought it was weird, because we've never seen something like that, like mid-season, where
gets fired, gets hired somewhere else.
So who knows? I just wanted to throw that one in there. God, looking at some of these comments. All right, guys, we're going to give our latest updated Heisman rankings. We did one a couple weeks ago. We only got a couple weeks left in the season. We'll just go with top three, unless you guys think that there's 4 or 5 that have a realistic chance. But let's go around the room. Just give 1 through 3, 3 through 1. What do you guys currently have as the updated Heisman rankings with a couple weeks left in the season?
God, it should be Kenneth Walker. It should be. I would say Kenneth Walker for me is number 1. I like Bryce Young, and I think a lot of people wrote him off pretty early, but I think that CJ Stroud has been impressive. I don't know if I would really say he's a legitimate Heisman candidate in my opinion, but I think he deserves to be in the conversation.
I think those are the 3 at this point. My order would probably go Young, Stroud, Walker. But yeah, in some combination, it's those 3.
I would agree with you guys on that. I don't think there are really any other people. I mean, no, I think it's those 3.
The Heisman right now. Sorry, go ahead, Blake, and then I'll add this.
Oh no, you can go. I'm just looking up. I want to get what the updated odds are, just so I can see how it's looking right now.
The Heisman race this year completely resembles college football. It's like, all right, there's a few options, and everybody else.
Yeah, so actually, I'm shocked by this. Looking at the FanDuel odds right now, CJ Stroud is all of a sudden the Heisman frontrunner. He's plus 150. Bryce Young is right behind him at plus 200. Kenneth Walker's at plus 450. I'm shocked by that. I would give the edge to Bryce Young, but CJ Stroud, I mean, this was a guy I wrote him off, especially after the Oregon game, because his first 3 games, I think, was not looking pretty. And there was that whole thing, remember? He wasn't benched, but when they played, I think it was Rutgers or someone, they didn't have him play at all because they wanted to give him rest, when essentially I think it was a bench, but there was that whole weird thing. And ever since then, he has been fantastic. Ohio State, they've been playing hotter than I thought. They've been playing some really good football. And so, yeah, he's currently the favorite. So I think between him, Bryce Young, Kenneth Walker, Matt Corral's still hanging around at plus 750, so he's still around. But I think those 3 names, I think it's anyone's for the taking. I think if Kenneth Walker has a great game against Ohio State this weekend, he might cement himself as the front runner. I can't remember a race being again, this late in the season where there's 4 names that you wouldn't be shocked it goes either way. So I think in any order you have those names, I think it's a perfect order. But I'm shocked seeing that C.J. Stroud is currently the betting favorite because I did not see that coming at all. That's shocking to me.
Let's put a short rounds comment on the screen real quick. So
Right
short
here.
round says number 1, Bryce Young, number 2, Kenneth Walker, number 3, CJ Stroud, number 4, Bailey Zapp, or is it Zappy? I can never.
Zappy.
Zappy. And number 5, San Diego State kicker Matt Ariza, or Ariza, I forget. I think it's Ariza. But yeah, that's definitely an inside pitch right there, huh, Blake?
It sure is. It sure is right there. That was fantastic. Guys, Bailey Zappi, I knew that he was putting up numbers when he was at the FCS level. I remember earlier on, he was putting up some really good numbers. In his 10 games this season for Western Kentucky, he's completing 71% of his passes, 4,200 passing yards, 42 passing touchdowns, and only 7 interceptions. Good Lord. I mean, if he were to play in the conference title game plus, their bowl game, whatever it is, so he's got 4 games left in him, he would have to go completely off. He'd probably have to throw 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns a game. He could potentially break Burrow's record from a couple years ago, whatever Burrow's numbers were. Again, he'd have to probably throw like 5 touchdowns a game, 4 touchdowns a game with 400 yards, but he's close. So how about Bailey Zappi for Western Kentucky, the Zips?
Kenny Pickett.
Let's see, what's their record?
Western Kentucky are not the Zips, Blake. They're the Hilltoppers.
Oh, they're
Akron are the
Hilltoppers? Yeah,
Zips.
Akron's the
And
Zips.
Western Kentucky's head coach is Clay Helton's brother.
Oh,
Yeah, I was
that's
going to say
right.
Tyson Hilton.
So he originally, he took Tyson over to USC, and then he went back to Western Kentucky.
So I'm excited that the Heisman is such, up in the air at this point, because usually by now we have like a front runner, maybe someone that has an outside chance, but there is that. Guys, before we move on to our Q&A, which by the way, guys, if you have any college football related questions about the playoff discussion, about the Heisman talk, about upcoming games, about anything college football in general, we'll be answering your guys' questions for about 5 to 10 minutes. So get those questions going in the live chat. Brady, you look very interested by something. You look like you're deep into thought over there.
I am. I've been trying to research if Clay Helton's actually coaching right now or if he's sitting out for the rest of the year.
Knows.
I can't find it. Like I was
even
reading
if you
the
watch
article.
the game even if you watch the game on TV, you don't know. They don't show the sideline. And if you go to the games, you just can't figure it out. Guys, before we move on to the Q&A, which like I said, if you guys have any questions, hit us up in the live chat. We'll answer as many questions as we can for 5 to 10 minutes. Also, actually, before I move to my segment, I missed this a few minutes ago. Our man Connor came in with a super chat. He said, I spoke Justin Fuentes firing into existence. Now Virginia Tech can prepare to bring in another group of 5 head coach. The second I saw that the other day, the first thing I thought was to DM Connor and be like, wow, you finally got your wish. Virginia Tech guys, any, potential moves there you can see, any potential fits? Because it's still, they haven't been what they've been in years past, but Virginia Tech's still a pretty good landing spot for a head coaching gig.
Yeah, it's one of those gigs that I think should be a high-profile job, and I think that it just is not anymore. But it should be, and it can become one because, they're going to have the money to offer. It's still an ACC school. It should be a school that's at the top of the ACC every single year and is not anymore. But again, think about it. This was a job that Frank Beamer once had, and when he was considered one of the top coaches in college football, and Virginia Tech was a top-tier program. It's not anymore, but it still can be. So it kind of just depends on who they reach out to. And look, I saw a tweet earlier this year. Didn't make a lot of sense, but the premise, I respect the premise. And it was about USC, and it was USC should ask every single top coach in college football if they're interested in the gig. They should ask Dabo. They should ask Nick Saban. And all right, Nick Saban's not leaving Bama for USC. But I understand the premise. That's what Virginia Tech should do. Get a big coach, come on in, revamp everything, go through a quote-unquote rebuild, and get Virginia Tech back to where they should.
Yeah.
I agree. This now, similar to what I asked earlier, taking LSU out of the equation, you get a phone call, even contract from these 3 schools, Virginia Tech, TCU, and Washington. What do you take? Because
See,
TCU
that's tough.
parted ways with
I would-
Patterson too. So
I don't know. I feel like Washington, but that could be West Coast bias.
Yeah.
take Washington out of it then. Virginia Tech, TCU.
Maybe Virginia Tech, just because.
Yeah, between those two, Virginia Tech.
Yeah. Maybe it'll be interesting. That's again, that's another good landing spot for some potential coaches. Guys, we have a brand new segment this week that I'm going to be introducing. Didn't tell any of you guys, but it's called Blake's Fun Facts. These are some fun facts that I was able to find on the internet, because the internet is a great place, and it offers
Please tell
many
me
fun
none
facts.
of them are football related.
No, they're all football related, unfortunately.
Damn, that's boring.
Yeah, did you know that in 1986, the price of gas... All right, guys, here's some fun facts. Guys, did you know that Utah's Rose Bowl odds will be 65% if they lose to Oregon this week? But their odds are going to drop to 35% if they win.
Why?
Yeah. So I've thought about this. Could you guys imagine if it's Utah and Oregon in the Pac-12 championship, and Utah loses and they finish the season with 4 losses or something, and the committee's like, well, we're not putting a 4-loss team in the Rose Bowl, and then next up is ... ASU.
Well, yeah, that's
I know.
that's what it is.
I know.
So, well, that's literally what our best chance is. Either Oregon beats Utah this week, and then somehow Colorado beats Utah, and ASU wins out. I believe they're in the Pac-12 championship, right?
Yeah. So
I just don't see that happening.
But I'm
So-
even saying,
No, I know. So
Yeah.
ASU's best chance at getting in at this point is for Oregon to beat Utah this week, and then in the conference championship, beat them a second time. And suddenly, if Oregon goes to the playoff, ASU's going to the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, so I'll just quickly share this whole thing about the reasoning behind it. So again, that is, if Utah loses to Oregon this week, they have a 65% chance of going to the Rose Bowl. If they beat Oregon, they have only a 35% chance of going to the Rose Bowl, and that's because, however, beating Oregon this week is probably the worst thing the Utes can do for the Rose Bowl chances. If Oregon wins out, they go to the college football playoff, and the second best team, in all likelihood, potentially being Utah, goes to the Rose Bowl. Again, we can see potentially, maybe it ends up being ASU. That would be a lot of fun. But in all likelihood, the Pac-12 championship game will basically be a formality where the non-Oregon team gets to go to the Rose Bowl if they win or lose. So that was an interesting fun fact I saw. Again, there is a chance it's ASU, because if Utah loses by 30 to Oregon this week, then they still get the chance to play, because they're not going to lose to Colorado next week. They still get to be in the Pac-12 title game. If they lose by 30, to Oregon again, maybe the committee goes, hey, let's put ASU in the Rose Bowl, because maybe they think it'll draw more people or something like that. Guys, here's another fun fact that I found out. Iowa, the Iowa Hawkeyes, I'm sure you guys are all familiar with the football program there in Iowa. I don't know if you guys heard this, but they hung a banner for the 2020 Music City Bowl. Do you guys think that's a problem that they hung a banner for the 2020 Music City Bowl?
I think it's a little odd.
Didn't it not happen?
Well, that is correct, Brady, because that game did not happen. That game was canceled due to COVID. They were supposed to play Missouri in the Music City Bowl. Unfortunately, the game got canceled due to COVID, but Iowa, they recently decided to hang a 2020 Music City Bowl banner. Now, it's not a Music City Bowl champions banner, because that's not the case, but they still hung the banner anyway. Guys, fair or foul?
That's some cult bullshit.
You can't say that.
AFC finalist.
I was about to say, don't they
tried.
have some banner that was like one AFC divisional game or something like that?
It was like,
Well,
it's
the
AFC
Nashville
South
Predators.
finalist.
The Nashville Predators are like notorious for hanging banners. Like, I don't remember what exactly it said, but instead of like Nashville losing in the Stanley Cup final and hanging a banner that said like Western Conference champions, which they should do, right? They won the Western Conference. They're the Western Conference champions. They like also hung a banner that was Stanley Cup finals runner-up, and it's like, what? That's not a thing. Like, you just won the Western Conference and lost. Like,
yeah, the photo of the banner was hilarious. I should have saved it so I can include it, but hey, a bowl game that never happened, they have a banner to show that they would have been in it. So there you go, guys. My final fun fact that I found, the Kansas Jayhawks got their first Big 12 road win since October 4th of 2008. snapping a 56-game conference road losing streak. Now, I know that Kansas has been bad, but the fact that they went 56 games on the road in conference and couldn't win one, that's unbelievable, guys. I'm going to throw some trivia in here. The longest active streak now in the FBS is 11 straight road losses within conference. Would you guys like to take a guess as to who currently owns that streak?
Is it Arizona?
I'm gonna guess. Wait. Repeat it.
The longest active streak now by a team that has lost the most consecutive road conference games at 11.
Yeah, I'll go with U of A.
And I guess Brady.
Anybody or Power 5?
Power 5.
U of A.
Actually, I think it's FBS in general. Yeah, it's FBS, but it's a Power 5 school.
I'm gonna stick with U of A.
I'm gonna go Illinois.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I'm very shocked
it's not Indiana.
I'm very shocked you guys didn't get this one.
Vandy?
Did Lyle guess?
Vanderbilt.
Yeah, it's Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt currently has the longest now, but there you go. All right, guys, so we're going to move on to Q&A now. 5 to 10
I like
minutes.
this. Next time, make that segment not football facts.
Just random facts that I can
Random
find.
fun. All right, for next week, depending on when we can do a show, because it's Thanksgiving week, but it's also rivalry week, everybody bring one random fun fact to the show.
There you go. We'll do. All right, guys.
That's
Again,
your
we'll be
homework.
answering questions for 5 to 10 minutes. So ask us as many questions as you can. The more fun, the better. Scooter Sports, could 2019 LSU's offense plus 2021's Georgia's defense beat the 0-16 Browns? Let's scrap the 0-16 Browns. Let's make it the current Detroit Lions team. So if you were to take that LSU offense, the current Georgia defense, you put them together, could they beat the Lions team from this year, who aren't going to go winless?
Typically, when faced with a question like this, I always say no. However, any team that is quarterbacked by Jared Goff is already coming from behind. So I will, in fact, take any team ever, JV, freshman team at my high school, to beat this year's Detroit Lions if Jared Goff is the starting quarterback.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I think the Jags are worse than the Lions. The Lions have been on the edge multiple times of winning a couple games.
They scored some garbage time touchdowns against the Rams too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say no. I always say no to this question. Although I will say I'm rooting for Dan Campbell. That guy is fun. Like, I can't even imagine what he'd do if he won a playoff game one day. So I'm rooting for Dan Campbell's success. But no, I don't think the combination of these two units would beat an NFL team.
You look at what an NFL team is made up of. Number 1 picks, Heisman winners, All-Americans, All-Pros. Joe Thomas, one of the greatest offensive linemen in the last 30 years in the NFL, was on that 0-16 Browns team. There is no way that combining those two forces can beat an NFL team.
What if Jared Goff's the quarterback, though?
Well, the thing, Brady,
hang on. Is it Jared Goff like on an NFL team, or was it when he did that Red Bull commercial for the 7-on-7 and like put the wig on and everything?
How did they not understand that?
I don't know.
These
like
Ventura College football players, man. I'm telling you. How did they not?
The same one with Schwarber too, right?
Chris Bryant. They did it with Chris Bryant.
Chris Bryant, yeah.
And it was Chris Bryant and that
was in Arizona, I think.
Yeah, that was it. That was at Mesa, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because they did it during spring training.
Yeah, I will say though, Brady, you have to take into account this would be, a team that has Joe Burrow at quarterback, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
But it's also college Joe Burrow, and I think Bengals second year Joe Burrow is a lot better than college Joe Burrow. So
that is true.
Maybe they put up a fight, but like to Brady's point, if Jordan Davis went against Joe Thomas, like Jordan Davis right now, he wouldn't win.
No,
like
I agree.
Jordan Davis in 5 years might be like an all-pro for all we know, maybe. But right now, I don't think he'd beat Joe Thomas.
I agree. I think that the NFL team would win.
because you look at what the NFL team is made up of, it is all of those guys.
Yeah.
Right?
Except the Lions, because they have Jared Goff.
Former number 1 pick. Right.
Yeah, don't remind me.
All right, guys.
St. Louis Rams. It's okay, Josh.
We got a question that comes in from Salty Wings and Avs fan. Who's more likely to leave their school, Luke Fickell or James Franklin? I assume James Franklin. I don't know if there's other Franklins out there that might be leaving their school, so I'm going to assume he's talking about James Franklin.
Let me just say, you're a Salty Wings and an Avs fan, because like 90s and 2000s, these two teams hated each other. So if you're both, I think that's a little odd. But I'm rooting for you.
Unless he's a fan of like salty wings, like a food.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I hope Fickell. I think Franklin. I need to take a phone call. Excuse me.
I would guess Luke Fickell too.
We should try to unmute Josh. No, we can't not do that. I'd say
Hello?
Fickell's. I would agree with Josh. I think Fickell's more likely to leave because there is. Yes, he has his team ranked 5th, but I think there are better jobs for him. Just like we talked about, LSU. Say Oklahoma becomes available. If Luke Fickell could go there, he would. A guy like Franklin at Penn State, I don't think would leave.
Yeah.
Or I think he would, but I think Fickell's more likely to.
Can we get this super chat up before Josh comes back? Oh, and he's back. I was going to say we should get that super chat up.
How was your phone call?
San Fran Fan 30 says Jared Goff is better than Cody Kessler, Deshaun Kaiser, and Kevin Hogan. God, is that was that the quarterback room that year?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, God.
I mean, to be fair, Jared Goff did quarterback the best offense in football a few years back, but he's not the
Had a
same
lot of
anymore.
Had a lot of help.
God, the fact that this was their. Well, wasn't there a point where like Deshaun Kaiser was supposed to be like QB1 of his class coming out?
Yeah. Well, after that first year he had, people said that because that first year he had, he was really good. But I mean, then there was that whole QB battle, and Malik Zaire and him went back and forth, and then that was the year. And then that was the year Notre Dame went 4-8, and he just melted down and had a really bad year and kind of never recovered from it.
Josh, pick one. Jared Goff or Jamarcus Russell?
Jamarcus Russell. More dynamic offense with the Rams.
Oh boy.
God. All right, we'll do one more question. Less short round. If you're still there, give us your question now before we get to the pick'ems. Joseph McClain, is Ohio State still too much for Michigan, or is it actually going to be close this year? Is this the year that Harbaugh finally gets the win over Ohio State in year 7?
Harbaugh?
Harbaugh.
Oh.
Harbaugh Marks?
I don't think they win. My one of my colleagues in the office is a Michigan fan. We were talking about this the other day. We both agreed Ohio State likely wins this game. But go jump in a trash can, Josh, from San Fran Fan 30. Okay. Yeah, I think Ohio State is a good team. I think they're a more complete team. Again, I'm super impressed with Michigan's front seven. I'm very impressed with what the offense has done. I don't think the offense is very good. And ultimately, I think Michigan's just a decent team. I think Ohio State is actually a very good team. So it'll be close, but I think Ohio State wins.
The last time these two teams played, Ohio State just ran Michigan right out of the building. And from then to now, we can argue this Ohio State offense is even better. I mean, I think the only talking point where you say maybe there's been a downgrade in position is quarterback from Fields to Stroud, but CJ Stroud might win the Heisman. So if that Michigan team couldn't win a couple years ago, I think it's going to be tough to beat this Ohio State offense with not one, not two, but now 3 borderline elite college wide receivers. So I don't think they're going to do it.
From what I saw, I think in person and watching Ohio State almost every week is this 3-headed monster of JSN, of Olave and Wilson might be better than the Alabama wide receiver room from last year. I'm not saying it is. It might be. Or it's very, very close to. I think in watching the Ohio State games that I have this year, they are a great team all around. Top to bottom, offense, defense. Yeah, week 1 was whatever, but you look who they lost to. Ranked number 3. What I've seen from Michigan is they're very one-dimensional. Their defense is good, but their offense relies too much on the run, and they don't spread the ball around as much. And I think an Ohio State defense, led by Ryan Day, can pick that apart. I think Ohio State gets it done again.
You just described Michigan, so they're Michigan. Good defense, run the ball, can't throw the ball, can't spread it out.
Throwback to the Josh Hart days. Mike
Exactly.
Hart days. Mike Hart. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so Michigan.
We got a short round question. We also got a super chat. This comes in from Nathaniel. Now, this one was interesting. So he says, is there a possibility of a 6-way tie in the SEC West? Well, you guys were just talking about that. I had to go and actually look this up. So it's entirely unlikely. The amount of hypotheticals that would have to happen is tremendous. But there is actually a way, guys, that Alabama, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, Auburn, and Arkansas, there's a chance they could all finish 5-3 in the SEC West. Again, a lot would have to happen. I mean, it's likely impossible. If that would be the case and there's a 6-way tie and they're all 5-3, I don't know how that gets sorted out. But based on who they're playing, there's a chance there could be a 6-way tie in the SEC West. So if you want chaos, if you want anarchy, that might be it right there. So
so are we just talking about finishing with the same record? Because
conference record.
Well, there'd still be tiebreakers.
Exactly, but I don't know how that would work if you have 6 teams.
So I'm going to say no.
Allowed.
I'm going to say no. And head-to-head, I'm going to say no, there's no chance of a 6-way tie. I will say that there is a chance of everyone finishing with the same record, and then we get to see which tiebreakers determine the final standings in the division.
It'll be Bama somehow. I don't know
I don't remember what I saw this, but it was in talking about a tiebreaker in college. I don't remember exactly what it was for. The tiebreaker goes to graduation rate.
Ooh.
I don't remember what that was, but I remember seeing that. I'm going to look that up real quick.
All right, guys, I'm going to go to short rounds question. We'll try to answer this one quickly. Then we'll go through our pick'ems quickly because we are running a little high on time, but that's okay because Brady's got to get to bed. Short round, pick one to save your life. So your life is on the line, and you got to choose between these two. You need Shaq to shoot at least 60% on free throws. He gets 100 of them, so he's got to make 60 of them if my math checks out correctly. Or Jared Goff has to lead a last-second 75-yard drive against an average NFL defense. So I assume that we can take Shaquille O'Neal at any point in his career. If you want to take, Orlando Magic, early day Shaq, by all means, go ahead. If you want to take Cleveland Cavalier, Boston Celtics Shaq, you can do that. And I assume this is Jared Goff with the current Detroit Lions team.
Yeah, he sent another message saying 2021 Jared Goff.
Okay, so that's who it is. So you got Goff on the Lions, has to lead a 75-yard drive against an average NFL defense.
So here's the thing about Shaq. There was a year when he had over 60% free throw percentage. It was in
02-03.
So he was regular season free throw percentage. He was 59.5% in 09. He was 55.7 in 11. And then in 02-03, he was 62.2. So he got close a few times. And in his rookie year, he was 59%. So got close a few times. He had a few decent playoff years. However, he was also quite far from 60% most of his career. But I think it can be done. If we could choose a different season, I'd say Jared Goff in a heartbeat. But this year, against an average defense, I'm not sure. I think I'm going to take prime Shaq just to go up to the line in the gym by himself and make 60 of 100 free throws. I'm going to take Shaq, given those parameters.
I agree, especially if there's been years that Shaq was at 60% or better. Not many years, but if it's any point of his career, he did do it. And like Josh was talking about and making a point of, that's in a packed house with a full crowd. We're talking about he just has to do it in an empty gym. So I would probably take Shaq.
And Shaq's a competitive guy, so if you say, "Hey, I got a lot riding on this," he'll be like, "All right, I got you. All right, I got you, man. I've been knocked down 75 for the yeah, he'll do it for you. He'll knock it down. I'm going Shaq all day. Papa John's, I say Papa John's, Shakaroni, I say hi.
Bro, they have
Google me, Chuck.
They
have
the
Penguin.
Because MJ's grandma like used to watch like the Spanish channels. Shaq does commercials in Spanish. I forget for what I'll send her a text or maybe she can hear me. She can text it to me. There was some commercial. There was some ad he did where Shaq, it wasn't dubbed. Like Shaq did the Spanish. So he goes all out. So give me Shaq because like Brady said, I think if you tell him money's on the line or your life's on the line, he'll knock him down. He'll do it. All right, guys, let's get to our pick'ems for this week's show. Brady, unfortunately, since you could not partake in the show last time around, I had to dock you. But I pretty much, for the most part, I said, you know what? Brady's a smart guy. He would have taken the exact same ones I did. So I docked you 3. So I got you there. So unfortunately, though, you are now officially tied with Lyle.
Can I petition?
No, you cannot because
I wasn't first. I was supposed to come home, was supposed to do the show, but was on a flight that got canceled because there was a power outage at the Arizona airport. My flight got delayed a day and a half. I have no control over that and could not be a part of the show. Did not get the pick'ems until I landed. If I had, I would have sent in my picks before. I think I should at least be at 74 because I had 75.
Well, Josh, I'll throw it to you to be the deciding factor. Should Brady get docked the 3 that I gave him, or should he be docked only 1 and remain in second place?
Well, docked 3 puts him behind me.
It does. And
but
it hasn't tied
docked
with Lyle.
just one. What was he at before?
77. Him and I were tied.
So he's got 75.
I mean,
Again,
I
just
guess
assumed
I'm asking.
The real one would be Brady would be at like 62 or 63, whatever we had last time.
Well,
but you're going based off of like what he's been doing each week.
Yeah. Then I just docked 3 as his punishment.
I was just gonna say if you miss a pick'em and forget to send it in, you just get chalk. Basically, those are your pick'ems, like chalk for every pick. But I don't know.
So I don't think we got an answer, but Brady, you know what, Brady?
What are you petitioning for?
I said to give me 2 points.
So it puts him at 74.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. That's fine.
That's fair.
Right. Fine, Brady. I'll go in. I'll put you at 74. Let me just get that right here. 74. Hey, who knows? Who knows? So those are the pick'em leaderboards. Those are the points. But Lyle, he's come back. I think at one point Lyle was down by like 5 or 6. So he's inching his way back. Lyle has 72. Josh was 73. Brady with 74. I got 75. Guys, let's try to wrap these up as quickly as we can because we got a lot of games. And like I said, we're going kind of late. So without further ado, Captain Rob's number 10, Wake Forest Demon Deeks at Clemson.
What's the spread for this game?
Clemson is favored. Last I looked by, I want to say 4.5, 5.5, I think.
Clemson by a late field goal. I do not think they cover.
I'm going to take Wake Forest.
Give me Clemson. This is going to be a win to get them back on track.
I'll go Clemson. I mean, all of a sudden they're 7-3. There's a chance they finish the season with only 3 losses, which by their standards is an awful year, but they've been kind of better. UAB at number 22, UTSA.
The only Roadrunners team I will say meep meep for. UTSA, meep meep.
UTSA.
What I saw N'Keal Harry do with one hand against UTSA many years ago was wonderful. And so for that point, and for that reason, I'm picking UTSA. And rank them higher.
I'll go with the Roadrunners as well. Number 11, Baylor at Kansas State.
Give me Baylor on the road after a big win last week. Still can't crack the top 10. Give me the Bears.
Yeah, I'll go Baylor.
Charlie Brewer, Sean Oakman, what a great team Baylor has here. I'm going with the Bears.
I'm going to go with Baylor, but hey, crazy things happen in Manhattan. We'll see what goes down there this week. Number 9, Oklahoma State at Texas Tech.
I feel like we actually have not talked much about Oklahoma State this season. I think most people have not. And last year, like I said, I was super hyped up about Oklahoma State. This year I wasn't. So by principle, I refuse to continue. I refuse to talk about how good they are because I talked about them last year. Brittany, I think I have that sweatshirt. Not the one you're wearing, but
then what sweatshirt?
I'll go get it. But what?
No, you're like, I think I have that sweatshirt, but not the one you're wearing. So what other sweatshirt would
Oh,
it
well,
be?
it's not physically the one he's wearing. I just wanted to clear that up. Anyway, I'm taking Oklahoma State. I'm going to go get this sweatshirt. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'm taking Oklahoma State.
I'm going OK State.
I'm still trying to figure out what Josh meant.
Like, he owns the same sweatshirt that I have, not this physical sweatshirt that I am wearing at this exact moment.
But what
You still not
sweatshirt
get
is
it?
it then? No. I guess we'll see. Is Spencer
Blake,
Sanders
hang
still
on.
the quarterback at Oklahoma State, guys?
Hang on, Blake.
Yeah,
Hang on.
yeah.
We're circling back. If someone says to you, "Oh, I have that same hat," Josh
Then
is
they have
basically
this
saying,
pink Clipper. They have this pink Clippers hat that I'm wearing.
"Yes."
So it is
I
the
think so.
exact same sweatshirt.
Yes, that he still doesn't get it.
Dude, I am not physically in possession of the one that he is wearing.
Yes,
This
I'm
one
aware.
belongs to me. That one belongs to him.
All right.
Where'd you get yours at?
I don't remember.
Number
this is a
21
Nordstrom Rack
Arkansas
purchase.
at number 2 Alabama, but Bama's favored by 20.5 points. So guys, as we always do, got to incorporate one of the lines in here. Does Bama win by 21 or does Arkansas keep it within 21?
Bama by exactly 21 points.
Yeah, I'll take Bama with the points.
I'm gonna go Bama with the points, and it's gonna be 24.
I'm going to go Bama by 27. Iowa State at number 13 Oklahoma.
I'm going to take Oklahoma bounce back at home.
I think this game could stay close for a little while, but I think Oklahoma wins.
Iowa State's played Oklahoma really well over the last few years. I'm gonna go with Iowa State.
Yeah,
Especially if Oklahoma can't figure out their quarterbacks.
Yeah. What was it? Fans were chanting, "We want Spencer," recently, a couple weeks ago. So that thing's a mess. I'm going to go with Iowa State. I still think they're a good team. They've just had some bad losses, but I'm going to go with the Sykes. Louisiana at Liberty.
Give me liberty or give me death. Please don't kill me.
I will also take Liberty.
I will
Imagine that. Give me liberty or give me death. And the other founding fathers are like,
Okay.
I will also take liberty.
Yes.
I'll take death. That's. I also want liberty. Third.
Yeah. Is there a third option?
Hang on.
Yikes.
Hang on. Here we go. As the founding father says, I also would like liberty because why, Lyle?
Because why not?
Because why not? It's better than death.
Hey, give me Liberty. SMU at number 5 Cincinnati.
Cincinnati, baby. This is the win we've been waiting for. A win over SMU. The mighty Stangs.
This could be a test for Cincinnati, but I think they come away with a win.
I think they're gonna win. They're gonna stay at 5, and people will be in uproar again. I'm going Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'm upset that SMU, they fell out of the top 25 because they lost a couple weeks back. This was supposed to be like Cincinnati's biggest test outside of Notre Dame. I like Cincinnati, but SMU's got a good offense. For some reason, rivalry week comes a week early, and we get UCLA at USC this week.
I will not be watching this game, unfortunately. It is a 1 p.m. kickoff.
Josh has had it.
And I quit. But actually, right down the street, I'm doing the Kings game on Saturday at 1 p.m. So let's just say Figueroa is going to be a nightmare on Saturday.
You're going to be at the Crip Center?
The Crypto.com arena? Yes, I will be there.
Nah, the Crip Center.
Do you call it the bank? What do you call it?
You call it the Crip Center. And
Yeah,
half of
until
Los
Bloods take
Angeles
over and-
goes,
The Crip-
Angeles goes, hell yeah. And the other half goes, no.
Dude, I can't wait till the Clippers rebrand theirs and it's the Blood Center.
Oh, God.
No, they're at the Intuit Dome in 2024 in Inglewood next to SoFi.
The Intuit.
Be into it.
When I first saw the name of the building, I didn't think it was Intuit. I thought it was Inuit. And I thought, did they get approval from the nation to do that? But I noticed the other T.
UCLA at USC.
I'm taking UCLA. I don't really know how exactly this game's going to go. I think USC can win this game. I think USC, they have the talent to win every game they've played this year by double-digit points. I don't think they're very well coached. I think that there's a lot of stuff going on that could have been avoided, that could have been handled by either getting rid of Helton before the season or waiting until after the season. I think a lot of USC struggles this year have simply been because they let go of Helton midseason. Jackson Dart's getting his first college start. I'm excited to see what he can do, or at least see the highlights of what he can do. I do think UCLA wins this game. I don't know if it's going to be close. I don't know if it's going to be a blowout. Don't really know. But unfortunately, I'm taking the Bruins at the Coliseum. And my God, I'm worried about what the crowd's going to look like, because UCLA typically doesn't travel well to the Rose or to the Coliseum, but USC fans haven't traveled well to the Coliseum this year, so we'll see.
Yeah, I'll take UCLA too.
I'm going to go with UCLA as well. I think this will be a fun one. But Josh, you better provide updates like it's the Slippery Rock score. You gotta.
Oh, I will.
Gotta slip them in.
I'll have to. The last Kings game I did, the Dodgers were playing the Giants, or was it yeah? So they were playing the Giants, so I threw in Dodgers highlights since it was a playoff game.
There you go. I'll take SC because
I like it.
Because there you go. Number 3, Oregon at number 23, Utah.
I think Utah can win this game. I think this is going to be a very, very close game. I think Utah takes an early lead, but I think Oregon comes back and wins, I'll say, by 6 points. I said before the season, I think Anthony Brown could be exactly what this Oregon offense needs. Ultimately, I haven't been sold on him this year. I think he's been a little bit lackluster, but I do think Oregon wins this game on the road in a close one.
I think Oregon wins too, but yeah, as a whole, I just don't think they've been all that impressive. They don't feel like the number 3 team in the country to me, but they can beat the number 23 team in Utah.
This was the toughest game I had to pick. And I don't know why. I had a feeling for Utah. I just did, but I'm going to go with Oregon. Stick with my gut, and I'm going to stick with the Ducks.
I'm going to ride with Oregon just because now I've bought into the fact that there is an outside chance that ASU might sneak into the Rose Bowl. So if that's the case, we need Utah to lose and lose by a lot. So I'm going Oregon by 24. Yes. All right, guys. The best game of the weekend: number 7 Michigan State at number 4 Ohio State. This one I should have included the spread as well because you guys probably haven't seen it. Brady maybe because he's into that kind of thing. What do you guys think that the spread would be in a game like this between 2 top 7 teams fighting for a playoff spot?
It should be, I would say, 4 points, 3.5 maybe, 3.5, 4 around that mark. I believe, I have not seen it, but I will guess that Ohio State is a 10-point favorite.
You would think it would be within a touchdown, but yeah, I'll say 6 for Ohio State.
You want me to say saw last, Blake?
What's up?
You want me to say the spread that I saw last? I don't know if it's changed.
I mean, if whatever you saw, I'm sure it's somewhat similar. So I'll just say it right now because it definitely didn't change that drastically. 19.5. So Ohio
I
State's
saw it
a
at
19 and a half, 19 and a half point favorite. So disrespect to Michigan State there. That just goes to show how Vegas views it. But again, this is one of those things where Vegas gets 95% of us to take Michigan State plus 19 and a half, and Ohio State wins by 28. But guys, with that information, do with it what you will. We'll go with the 19 and a half. I'll add it to the graphic as well. So you can get bonus points if you want to take Michigan State with the upset, but we'll make it the 19 and a half spread.
I think Ohio State wins the game. I'm going to take Michigan State within that spread. I think that's a little bit absurd. Until someone legitimately stops Kenneth Walker from running the ball right down their throats, then I'm gonna take that offense. I don't think Michigan State is a phenomenal team. I think they're a good team. Like they deserve to be where they're at in the rankings. They beat Michigan, all that. At the same time, I don't want to totally disrespect them, but I also don't think they're a great team. It'll be within the spread. Like I don't think Ohio State covers, but Ohio State wins.
Ohio State wins. I'll take them to cover. I could see them just pulling away in the second half. I think the game stays close in the first half, but I think Michigan State is just one of these classic college football teams where they're good, but Ohio State's just on a different level, and this is the first time they're really going to see a team like this year. And even if Kenneth Walker has a good game, I'm just not sure as a whole on both sides of the ball that they'll be able to stop Ohio State for long enough. So I'm going to take the Buckeyes, and I say they cover.
I'm going to take the Buckeyes as well. I don't think they cover. I think Michigan State will give them a really good test, especially if they can, if Ohio State can stop the run game at least to a semi-consistent manner. I think Ohio State wins pretty easily. For 3 quarters, it's going to be close.
It makes sense to take Michigan State plus the 19, but like I've learned too painfully, when there's one that seems too good to be true, it is go against what everyone's betting. Vegas always wins. I'm going to take Ohio State to cover. They're going to win by more than 19 points. Guys, our worst of the worst, the battle between two two-win teams, South Florida at Tulane.
Tulane and USF. I think the University of San Francisco, the Mighty Dons, are going to have a big-time game today. I personally, different than Uniswag on Instagram, cannot stand all these alternate uniforms that South Florida wears. So for that reason and that reason alone, I'm riding with the Green Wave. But if you are ever riding a Green Wave, don't fall in. That water's gross.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Tulane too.
That was interesting, Josh. I'm also going to go with Tulane, and I thought it was University of San Fernando Valley. So I'm going to change it even more. So I'm going to for sure go with Tulane.
Tulane's one of those teams where I think I just always pick just because their mascot is a fighting green wave, which again, did we determine that would win the mascot battle because it is a massive wave, or was it still Lyle's Pistol Pete just because he'll shoot everyone?
Lyle chose Pistol Pete for some dumb reason.
Because he shoots you with a gun.
And we chose between Miami.
Have guns, Lyle.
We chose between Miami, which is a hurricane, which combines the green wave,
the Cyclones,
and Iowa State.
I'll take
thought
Tulane.
It was University of Southern France.
I'll take Tulane. Guys, one thing I want to throw out just because I saw this on Twitter. So right now, Louisville is playing Duke in football, and Louisville's winning 55-22. Malik Cunningham, the quarterback for Louisville, currently on the night has 300 passing yards, 5 passing touchdowns, 230 yards on the ground, and 2 rushing touchdowns.
Wow.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Hey, Brady, I started watching Curb Your Enthusiasm finally last week.
Are they coming
You've never
back?
watched it before?
I've seen parts, but I've never actually sat down to watch the show.
Yeah, dude, there's a new season already. They're on season 11. It just started 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
so
new
good.
season just came out.
Yeah, it's
very good.
It's
also Colts Hard Knocks, pretty good.
Yeah, I watch with MJ, and she goes, "If you literally aren't Larry David," which I'm like, I know. All right, guys, Arizona State at Oregon State.
All this talk about Arizona State going to the Rose Bowl if Utah loses to Oregon twice. And all ASU needs to do is win outright. ASU ain't going to the Rose Bowl. In Corvallis, Oregon State's wearing the sweet throwbacks. ASU doesn't have a chance. I'm going Beavers all the way.
Man, this could be a fast game because both these teams run the ball a lot. So I think that's what you're going to see for about 60 straight minutes on both sides. I'll take ASU. Like I've said for most of this year, against my better judgment, I'll take them. But I'll take them.
Hang on. All right, cool. It's not going to be raining in Corvallis on Saturday because if so, that was a guaranteed win for Oregon State. It's going to be 55 and sunny, which never happens in Corvallis. So I think ASU is going to get this win. I think what they can do with their run game, if like we talked about in our group text, our elite group of receivers that we have at ASU can spread the ball around with Jaden throwing 96 passing yards and a touchdown for a game. Great stats. But I do think they rely on the run game, but their defense is really, really good. So it's going to be tough to stop Jafar Jefferson and that Oregon State team. But
Jaquiz Rogers.
Yeah. Jafar? Is it Jafar, right?
Jafar, Jamar, Jafars, and Lamar.
Yeah, as long as that ball doesn't come out, we'll be good.
I think it's a 7:30 game.
Ooh, yeah, I'm sticking with Oregon State.
Yeah, I'm going to ASU.
God, this is one of those classic. This game's I don't have it in front of me, but if it's ASU Oregon State, that just screams Pac-12 Network at 7:30. By the third quarter,
ESPN.
Oh, it is. By the third quarter, half the stadium is going to be out. It's going to be a gross game. I'll take ASU just because we need them to get to the Rose Bowl because that'd be fantastic. I'll go with the Sun
ESPN.
Dev.
It is on ESPN. It has Arizona State as a 3-point favorite. The matchup predictor is 51-49 in favor of Arizona State.
That's way too generous on the points for both teams. Both teams can score that many points. But let's be honest, has Pac-12 After Dark written all over it? This game's going to be like 25-26 in the fourth quarter. It's going to be a weird scoreline, I'm telling you.
Also,
whatever it is,
for whatever it's worth, that stadium looks awful in Corvallis. Like it really does. It's not on my bucket list to go there. I got to tell you.
I can
Who's
confirm.
TJ predicting?
That's a good question. We'll have to ask him.
I can confirm that when I went to Oregon to cover the ASU basketball game, when I was in Corvallis,
yes,
it is an awful looking stadium. I'm a terrible coach right now.
It's Dave Fleming and Rob Gilmore on the call, so you got the same crew as last week.
There you go. And Charlotte says, Josh, that's win percentage, not points.
About what?
The 51-49.
I thought you said the point projection. I was like, the point projection. Holy cow! Yeah. Yeah. What a great prediction from ESPN. It's basically going to be one team or the other team. What a dumb projection.
They pick them in the betting world.
There you go. Well, that wraps up this week's edition of the Harris Highlight Show. Make sure to follow the show on Twitter at the @HHShow_. Stay up to date with us again next week. We might be on Tuesday, might be on Wednesday, might be tomorrow. I mean, next week's show might be tomorrow, so you have to wait to find out on Twitter to see.
Football watch along. We'll do it on Saturday.
Guys, any parting words before we head out for the week?
The rain train keeps on rolling, baby. Big games this weekend versus the Stockton Heat. Undefeated in regulation against the Rain.
Josh, how was Tucson?
Let me tell you about Tucson, Arizona before we leave the show. I will make it quick. We stayed at a Red Roof Inn with tons of refugees. I'm serious. I'm all for that. Just wasn't expecting it. What else? Watched a homeless man shout at a homeless woman about a lighter that he borrowed from her, and she's yelling expletives in his face while I'm pumping gas 10 feet from them. They're at a bus stop. She's saying, "Give me the lighter. I sparked you up, dude." And he's sitting there with said lighter in hand going, "I don't know what you're talking about." He definitely did know what she was talking about. She then yelled more expletives in his face, walked past me at the gas station, looked at me. I was suddenly like, "Oh, wow, the sky's like so blue today. You guys see this? The blue sky? It's crazy." And then she walked away. He then turns around and starts banging on the back of the metal bus station, just banging on it, looking at me. I'm like, oh, death is what I have, not liberty. And then later that day, we go to EG's, which is some sandwich place in Tucson that's all over the place. They've got good slushies. It was not that bad. Pretty good. Highlight of the food trip.
Yeah.
Highlight of the food trip. Then we're sitting there. Some employee is just getting reamed by the store manager, just in the store. There are like 9 people in the establishment. We are the only non-employees. They're all just sitting there hanging out in the EG. So I'm just like, that's weird. Anyway, then after this kid basically gets fired in front of us from his job, the poor kid. Don't know what he did, but he got fired for it. I'm looking outside, and a different person is sitting in the middle of the street, crisscross applesauce, just sitting there on his phone as cars are driving past him on either side. I'm going, what in the world is going on? Some other guy from nowhere walks up, daps him up, walks away, moves him to the side of the road, and walks away. So now this guy is just standing on the side of the road, sitting there on his phone. I'm going, what is going on in this place? And so that was my trip to Tucson. But I will say, I'm not going to say what I was there for other than I was working for a sports team. And I just walked into the building. No security, no credential. I was supposed to be there. I was told, walk in. I walked into the other team's room because I don't know where I was going. No one said anything. I just walked into the loading dock at the arena and walked in. A player was there. I was like, what's up, man? And he was like, hey, dude. And I said, I think I'm in the wrong room. He said, all right. So I walked into a different room. There were 3 people smoking outside of a door. And I thought, let's try this one. And I opened it, and that's where my colleagues were. And Tucson, baby. Tucson, Arizona.
Well,
and that was in 24 hours.
Captain Spartan 04 says, just wanted to say that Louisville is bowl bound. So Captain Sparta 04 wanted it on your note. Josh, thank you for that breathtaking and just thrilling Tucson story. Thank you, Tucson. I told myself after I left I'd never be back, and I'm probably never going to return, and that'd be okay because
it's because your credentials revoked for being in Tucson.
No, because I went twice.
What was the second one for?
Remember? Well, you weren't there. It's when it was me, Sean, Seb, and Matt.
Oh, you guys went to the U of A ASU game.
The U of A ASU game.
The choke game.
Yeah, so memories in Tucson. But for Josh Schaefer, Lyle Goldstein, Brady Klain, I can't believe it's 10:45 for Brady over there. This has been Blake Harris from the Chateau in beautiful Monrovia, California. Thomas says, thanks for a great show. See you all next week. And you know what, Thomas?
Thank you.
We will see you